we go, everybody. Week 16. We've got Uncle Dave, Proppy, Claudia with you. See ya on a plane, I think, currently heading to Florida, so he's not with us. Maybe he'll join us in this chat. Good to see all you guys again. Of course, ask all of your betting fantasy questions. We'll get to as many as we can here on the Early Edge Prop Show, brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary. Week 16 kicked off in firework fashion last night. Overtime win for the Seahawks. Anybody who's in the fantasy play, or, getting into the fantasy playoffs and has Puka, probably a very happy man, because he absolutely went off. All the controversy surrounding him, Uncle Dave, was interesting to see throughout the week. And he's like, yeah, hold my beer. I'm going to go off and put up 230 yards here.
I'm happy because I've got him in one of my leagues. I'm angry because I'm playing against him in another. And I'm a little frustrated that I'm playing against Matthew Stafford. Can't forget that he had a great game in the Dynasty League that I'm in with Proppy, other luminaries from SportsLine. That's a league that I covet. I won it last year. It was our first year doing it. I was the 1 seed again this year. And now I've got trouble because I went up against Matthew Stafford. My advice to people who went up against Nakua, Stafford, even JSN had an awesome game. You don't have to change your lineup. You should set your lineup the same way you would every single week in fantasy. Whatever strategy you use, stick with them. But if you know you're down big and you've got a player on your team that doesn't have high upside, it wouldn't hurt to look to see if you could find another option, someone that does have more upside, and to play that player. For example, I'm just throwing a name out there, Chris Godwin. Okay, Godwin had a great game last week. It still feels like he doesn't have a lot of upside. Adonai Mitchell could be a free agent in your league. We've seen him get a lot of volume and put up some big numbers himself. Maybe you've got to take that swing at the home run and give up the hit for a single that you would get with another player. It's literally the only time when I would consider doing such a thing in fantasy football.
Basically, what Dave is saying is don't bench Jahmyr Gibbs.
Well, I mean, you could, and I think you should if you're playing against one of us, but otherwise, no, don't do that. Don't do that.
Proppy, any quick thoughts before we head into a look at what we did last week and then the Week 16 plays?
Last night was absolutely unbelievable. What a historic, epic showdown between, in my opinion, the two best teams in the NFL, certainly up until this stage of the season. So incredible game. Just have to credit Seattle, really not thinking they're built to play from behind, but multiple deficits throughout the entire game, just continued to fight. Very impressive performance from both teams. I think both teams are certainly in great shape heading into the postseason.
Yeah, and I said 230. It was almost there. 225, 2 touchdowns for Puka. Just an absolute crazy game. And you're right, Proppy. Market agrees with you. Those are the two Super Bowl favorites. So certainly kicked off Week 16 as strong. We have plays for you guys, passing, rushing, receiving. Before we get to all that, though, let's take a look at what happened last week, see where we're at heading into Week 16. Uncle Dave, 2-2. Lots of 2-2s on the board. Proppy was up 3-2. Sia 2-1. Dave, anything you want to soapbox for here? Anything that crushed your spirit or made you happy?
Not a damn thing. Let's move forward.
All right, Proppy.
No, I'm ready to move forward as well. Let's look ahead to this week. I think we're going to perform better across the board.
And just shout out to Jacoby Brissett. I'll be talking about him in a second. Everybody, every single time tells me I shouldn't play it. And he smashes every single week. We will get into that. Let's start with some passing props. Proppy, you have a handful here. Let's start with Tyler Shuck up against the Jets. Tell me why you like the over on his passing yards.
Yeah, credit to Tyler Shuck, who had really not looked very good since debuting in the NFL. But last week, looked absolutely phenomenal, coming off of his best game of the season, 24 of 32 for 272 yards en route to a pretty big upset win. Tyler Shuck is looking very comfortable in that Kellen Moore offense. So I was very, very impressed with Tyler Shuck, who even prior to last week had been starting to show some glimpses of being a viable NFL quarterback. But really, when Tyler Shuck has struggled, it's been when he's faced a good pass rush, which bodes extremely well for him this week against the Jets, who offer absolutely no pass rush, and they're terrible in coverage as well. So this is really a matchup I'm going to think or I anticipate that Tyler Shuck can have a lot of success in. It's tailor-made for his skill set, in my opinion. So getting a pretty low number here of just 212 passing yards. I also look at the state of the New Orleans running game, and they're without Devin Neal as well as Alvin Kamara. So I just don't really think this is going to be a game where they're going to be able to run a ton, even if they want to effectively. So I think we're going to see Tyler Shuck airing the ball out here to really be effective. We saw what Trevor Lawrence just did. He looked like the second coming of John Elway in that game. So I think Tyler Shuck can have another big game, but it doesn't even need to be a big game when we're talking about 212 passing yards here. So I love him. I love backing the Saints passing attack in this matchup that is great for Tyler Shuck.
Yeah, Proppy, when I was looking for receiving plays, Chris Olave stood out to me because of this Jets secondary in general, one of the worst bottom 5 against the number 1 receiver. And I was shocked to see, I feel like I don't talk about Chris Olave often, but he's top 5 in the league in targets, top 10 in catches, benefiting from Tyler Shuck. 68% completion percentage in all but one of the last 5 games, but I figured Shuck was probably the better play there.
I love Chris Olave. We've backed him a lot this season. The one thing that's been interesting after the departure of Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave was operating primarily close to the line of scrimmage, and in the intermediate portions, you'd see him have a lot of receptions without a lot of yards. I would talk about him being my favorite positive regression candidate in the NFL. We've seen that come to fruition over recent weeks. What's happened, though, his ADOT, his average depth of target, has increased substantially without Rashid Shaheed. So he's still getting peppered with targets, not quite to the same volume, but those are more valuable targets down the field. But what that does is that creates a little more volatility because as we know, it's just harder to complete passes the further you are from the line of scrimmage. So this could potentially be a great game for Chris Olave. Love the fact that his ADOT has substantially increased. However, it's harder to bet on him, at least from a volume standpoint. Considering that his ADOT is substantially longer than it was pre-Rashid Shaheed.
Yep, receiving line there set at 61 in the hook, as high as 64.5, catches at 5.5. But like I said, I think maybe just going with the Shuck play is the safer spot. Dave, I'm not seeing a play from you. Do you have any passing props or no?
I don't have any passing props.
Okay.
There were a couple that I looked at, and there's one specifically that I can't wait to hear from Proppy on, involving Justin Herbert. And it's not because I'm anticipating a showdown by any stretch of the imagination. He's one of the quarterbacks that I feel like I've got a blind spot on this week because his production hasn't been good. So I don't know when we're going to talk about it. Maybe we could talk about it now.
Let's rip it. Yeah.
Justin Herbert is the guy who I need to talk about him a little bit more. I need to get a good
Sure.
baseline on what to expect. And I trust what Proper has to say.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And before we get to Herbert, I would love your take on one thing, Dave. And I just want to talk about this, Claudia, very quickly. Is my maturation as a bettor. One thing that I've noticed more and more, and I think Kirk Cousins last week was a perfect example of this. When you see a good matchup, sometimes you kind of want to get a little too cute with it. And what I mean by that is, I remember last week we had a question regarding, I forget what receiver it was, on the Falcons on the show, whether or not we would back him. And basically the crux of the argument that I made was I would just rather back the quarterback in a good matchup than kind of take a shot on a secondary or a tertiary receiver, even if it is a good matchup. I think that's something that's like worth noting or just kind of accounting for is oftentimes it's easy to overthink things or want to get a little too cute by taking a player when in reality, I think this week with Tyler Shuck is another example of that. You should just probably take the signal caller because his success hinges on the quarterbacks or vice versa. So that's just one thing I wanted to point out. And then, I'm backing Justin Herbert here, going over 242 or 40 and a half yards versus Dallas. I just love this matchup for Justin Herbert. Watching Justin Herbert last week, the stat line doesn't jump off the page. Also, if we look at Justin Herbert's recent production, we know he's playing with a broken hand in his non-throwing hand. and they have been very run heavy, but Dallas just provides a perfect matchup, in my opinion, because they have a tremendous offense with a terrible defense. So it's twofold. They're not great in coverage. They're without Deron Bland, who's arguably been their best corner. They're without Quentin Williams, I believe, as well, who's been their best pass rusher since acquiring him. And then offensively, you've got Dak and company with the two receivers who have been a prolific passing offense. So I think this is the type of matchup that's going to push Justin Herbert. And Justin Herbert, obviously with a bevy of weapons, I thought he looked pretty good, even in that run-heavy game plan against a much better Kansas City defense last week. So I was confident enough that I felt like if Justin Herbert's pushed and the Chargers have to throw the football more than they'd like to, which is going to be 30 plus times a game, I think he can take advantage of the weapons and the soft matchup against Dallas. I think Dallas is going to put pressure on Justin Herbert and company. So I like Herbert to go over his passing yards. I also like Ladd McConkey at just 46.5 receiving yards. Again, I know his production has tailed off, sort of in line when Herbert had that injury to the non-throwing hand, but I'm confident enough in Herbert here that their success can be tied to each other. I was looking at same game parlays prior to the start of this. Basically, Herbert in the 220 range mixed with McConkey at around 30 yards or 25 yards. You can get that at even money. That's something that's very appealing to me.
So the latest on Quinnen Williams is that he is tracking the play. That's from Brian Schottenheimer, the coach there. I think that's something that you have to keep an eye on because that defense was definitely different once they added Quinnen Williams. And it wasn't just him. There were some other linebackers. DeMarvion Overshown is the one guy who really seemed to step up. But that's the front seven, and that could impact the pass rush for the Chargers. And to me, that's really like the one issue that makes me nervous about Justin Herbert. We know he's a great thrower, and he made some outstanding throws last week. But if he's going to be pressured again and again, I don't think this offensive line with the tackles they have is good enough to protect him even against this front. And it's going to be the interior that could really have a problem if it's Quinnen Williams, because where does Quinnen Williams line up most of the time? He's a defensive tackle. He's running at the guards in the center most of the time, and they have to put two guys on him. That does impact the edge rushers. It does make it harder if he plays. The problem is if he doesn't play, if Quinnen Williams isn't in the game, well, that just might compel the Chargers to run the ball even more. And last week, they did run the ball immediately. I think 7 of the first 8 plays were runs, and they were okay. So I can't say I love this one, Proppy. I'm certainly not going to showdown it because I do think Dallas could end up holding up their end of the bargain, could end up being a high-scoring game. And if it's going to be that, then not only is Ladd McConkey going to get way more than 50 yards, but you could see Justin Herbert get in the neighborhood of 275 to 300 yards. It's just a matter of how the game is going to flow and whether or not Quinnen Williams is going to wreck it for this inferior Chargers O-line.
I think that's a very fair point. I think both of those points are very fair, Dave. I would say I'm being a little bit speculative here. There's a 50-point total, which leads me down the path of thinking we're going to see kind of the optimal game environment for Justin Herbert. That coupled with just getting a discount, seeing him last week look good. This is, I believe, his 3rd or 4th game playing with the injury. I have to think he's feeling as well as he's felt since experiencing it. So it's kind of like all these other outside factors that are leading me towards wanting to speculate and take a little bit of a discount here on Herbert, what I believe is going to be an optimal game environment.
And I will say shout out to Sean Betty, I think it is, who's saying Proppy backs everything he says up with the numbers because he's been cashing every week. And I say this often on CBS Network with you, Proppy, is you like to buy low on a lot of these players, and that's what you're doing with Justin Herbert. 5 straight weeks, he hasn't hit this. So the market's going to react. People are going to overreact, bet the under. Now's the time to buy low. And like you said, with that total, with the 1.5 point spread, game script bodes well. So I like that. Sean's also telling me to tell everybody to hit the like or the love. I don't know. I don't really know YouTube, but yeah, come on, people.
It's the like
show
button,
us love.
Claudia. It's a like button.
Smash it.
Even old boomer Uncle Dave knows that it's the like button.
I know. God, I'm not even 30 yet. I'm 29. All right, let's talk some Jacoby Brissett because I mentioned him off the top, and If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I know we've heard that cliche, but it's so true, guys. The market hasn't adjusted. He's still at 35.5 attempts. Of course, I'm going to go over. Depending on where you shop, you can find this as high as 37 in the hook, but why wouldn't I go over when he has cashed it every single time? He's putting up 40 plus, never mind 37, 6 straight weeks with 40 plus attempts, 40, 44, 40, 49, 57, 44. There's been 1 week through 15 that he hasn't cashed this. It was a massive win against Dallas, and he still had 31. And I know the matchup's not as ideal as it was the past few weeks because the Falcons are decent at limiting the volume, but they're still allowing 30 a game. Game script bodes well for the back and forth. He's averaging 43 over the last 9 games. They're out of the playoffs. Why not just let Brissett throw it? They're also terrible at home. 2-5 straight up, 1-4 ATS. So I think game script bodes well. And even if it doesn't, guys, Brissett's chucking this thing. Both of you see every single week I bring up Jacoby Brissett. I think going back to, his first start, you guys are like, I don't like it. Are you on board with me now or no?
No, my overarching point continues to be is that the fragility of garbage time cannot be counted on. And we saw once again last week, the Texans basically had a 20-point lead for the vast majority of the game. You cannot count on that week in and week out. And sooner than later, Jacoby Brissett or any quarterback that's in this position where he's just greatly benefiting from garbage time is going to fall flat on his face and just perform badly, more so than just continue to have volume and continue to be in a position where they're trailing and the defense is just going to allow them to basically dink and dunk his way up the ladder. The problem is that as soon as he's in a more competitive game environment, I don't have the trust or confidence in Brissett to continue to perform there. So I just think this is a game where we could see that exact scenario unfold because I don't think Atlanta offensively will be able to push the Cardinals to the point where they have another 20-plus point deficit and they're just going to decide to let him rip over and over. I just promise you that the buck is going to stop with Brissett. Again, the train can keep on rolling. It could happen this week, but it's going to happen sooner than later, and we're going to see him fall completely flat on his face and just perform badly. I think that's going to happen this week. I will gladly show down you on this here right now.
All right.
It's gonna be a showdown.
I mean, I know I'm bound to probably not hit this, but I have made so much money on this man chucking that damn thing that I'm gonna
right after the wheels fall off. Dave, what do you think?
I side with Claudia. I think that Atlanta will be able to put up points. This Arizona defense is atrocious, Proppy. The points might come on long drives, and that could complicate things a little bit for Jacoby Brissett. But I still think we will see a very familiar game script for Arizona. I certainly don't think we're going to see a game script where they're playing with a big lead on the Falcons, and it's Michael Carter, their third-string running back, handling the rock 25 times. I think the Cardinals just are what they are, and what they are is a team with a great tight end who's trying to set an NFL record, a great receiver in Marvin Harrison Jr. who's going to play this week, and another good receiver who's really stepped up in Michael Wilson. They're all going to get targets from Jacoby Brissett. You could convince me, Proppy, that the completions over is a mistake or that the yardage over is a mistake. But I don't think the efficiency is what we should go after here. I think it's just the raw number of attempts. I think it's going to be there for Jacoby Brissett. And I told Claudia this on CBS Sports HQ, like maybe a month ago. The bet feels like, will Jacoby Brissett finish the game? The over is -1, whatever it is, 127, and the under is probably close to even.
Yeah.
I think he will finish the game, and that means he's going to throw 36 to 42 passes in the game. So I'm with you on this one, Claudia.
I will say quickly too, Proppy, it's not so much like my faith in Atlanta to go crazy on them, but all the injuries that the Cardinals are dealing with. They have three guys, two guys certainly out on defense, one guy questionable, and Cody Simon. And then their O-line is banged up. Their left tackle, their left guard is out, which I know isn't ideal, but I think he's going to have to chuck it because they're going to be playing from behind. So I do think game script is going to bode a little bit better than if it was everybody healthy, even playing field, but it's not necessarily. People are probably sick of talking about Jacoby Brissett. So we will move on. Baker Mayfield, Proppy, another over for you against Carolina.
Another over here. Yeah. Normally I'm not on these quarterback props, but love Baker Mayfield this week. Going over 227 and a half passing yards against Carolina. Last week we saw Baker have a really strong game. I felt obviously was a disappointing outcome, but he looked good under center for the most part. And then we saw him go over 270 yards. His yards have been steadily tracking below 250 in consecutive weeks. So it was good to see him air the ball out. The Bucs have a little bit more of an aggressive game plan. I think that's hindered him a bit because I think he's been playing hurt, honestly. I think in the offseason we'll see something about Baker getting a shoulder surgery or some report will surface about him not playing. But I love this spot for Baker for a variety of reasons. First off, you've got the Tampa Bay skill position players. You've got Cade Otton back in the lineup. You've got Mike Evans, who looked fantastic last week. You've got Emeka Egbuka, who's having a very strong rookie season. Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan. I think this is the first time all season, this is the first time all season that he has had the full repertoire of his skill position pass catchers finally healthy. And I think this is a very deep group, a very skilled group. And then the matchup, it's twofold here. Carolina is not good against the pass, particularly recently. Their season-long stats are somewhat middling, but if we zoom in since week 10, they rank I believe it's 25th in EPA allowed per dropback and with the third worst success rate as well. So they've really struggled in pass defense. I really think this is a matchup we're going to see them be able to take advantage of. And then lastly, it's against this Panthers team in a game with massive playoff implications and huge stakes. The rubber meets the road here. This is a must-win game for both of them. So I really think that Tampa Bay has to have a complete game, something that's eluded them, and that's going to involve being aggressive and taking advantage. So low number here for Baker. He's got the healthy pass catchers. He's got a great matchup versus Carolina in a high-stakes game that the Bucs really need to win. So I like this quite a bit.
Robbie, we're being asked on Mike Evans coming off 132-yard game, 12 targets, 6 catches. Do we like him at 56.5?
So there's so many healthy guys right now who are capable. I really think Mike Evans, if I had to bet on one, it would probably be Mike Evans, but I wanted to talk about Egbuka here as well. He's been exceptional versus zone coverage this season. He's really struggled against man coverage. The Panthers play zone at one of the highest rates in the league. So if there's going to be a receiver that I'm going to speculate a little bit on, I think Egbuka at 41.5 receiving yards is appealing to me. I'm a little more comfortable speculating there versus Evans. I would lean over on the number, but there's just so many mouths to feed suddenly for Baker. And again, this is a situation where there's good matchups across the board, really. So I'm going to just single out and target the quarterback here.
Dave, I'll come to you real quick with passing touchdowns for Baker Mayfield. Before last week, he went 7 games. Just one of those, he had 2 or more passing touchdowns. This is the healthiest they've been all season. All of his weapons, 1.5. He broke that streak last week, had 2 against Atlanta. Do you like over 1.5 for him? Touchdown?
What are the odds on it, Claudia?
Let me check. Somebody just asked us.
Well, while you check, I just want to tell you, Properoo is right about the coverage for Carolina. In fact, they're one of the teams that plays cover 3 specifically at the highest rate. This is a single high coverage. The corners and the safety are expected to play back. Teams do this when they want to try and stop the run. I totally understand why the Panthers do this because they don't have the horses otherwise to stop the run on a consistent basis. This season against cover 3 on a target per route run basis, Evans is number 1, 28.6%. Abuka is number 2 at 27%. These are good opportunities. Anything north of 25% is really, really good. So if this is what the tendency is for Tampa against the cover 3 defense, these are the 2 wide receivers that are going to get the chances to get a lot of catches. And really the yardage is what I would look at with both of these guys. That being said, I feel like these numbers are just a little too low, including Baker's number. It feels a little bit low. It makes me wonder if the odds makers are actually expecting the Bucs to run the ball a little bit more this week. And if the Panthers aren't a good dance partner, if the Panthers can't put up points, then I'm not sure that the yardage is going to be awesome for Tampa Bay. That being said, Tampa's secondary has been a mess all season long. So there are going to be opportunities for Carolina's overs to come in. Bryce Young's pass attempts, Bryce Young's yardage, Tedorow McMillan's catches and yardage, even Jalen Coker, who's become a little bit of a fantasy darling over the last couple of weeks. Decent flex receiver. His overs are also in play. It leads to it being a solid opportunity for these receivers and the quarterback to go over their yardage numbers for Tampa.
Minus 115 juice on the 1.5.
That's not bad. I wouldn't mind a couple of sprinkles on that.
Lean over. Yeah. Okay. So lean over there. I actually wrote up Bryce Young. I was looking at his attempts, completions, yardage. I ended up leaving it off, but I agree with you guys. I think a lot of points are scored in this game. I like the full game over. So a few options for you there. Let's get to this quick question on Joe Burrow. Bengals laying 4.5 in Miami. Do we like this to be a bounce back week? Prop, you look into Joe Burrow at all this week?
Yes, I do like Joe Burrow this week. I think this is a spot where I think Joe Burrow is highly motivated, and I think the Bengals definitely want to get some late season momentum now that they've been eliminated from playoff contention. I know it's important to them. I think getting T. Higgins back is huge. I know Jamar Chase has had huge workloads, but the efficiency has tailed off a bit. I think getting T. Higgins back is really beneficial to the passing game as a whole. And yes, I believe this is a good spot to really take advantage of Miami's back end as well, where they've struggled. So I think the Bengals offense gets back on track in a big way.
Okay, sweet. Dave, any thoughts, or can I talk Drake May?
You can talk Drake May. Let's put a pin in this Bengals offense conversation.
All right, perfect. Yeah. All right, we'll chat it later. Patriots Ravens. This is one I actually just wrote up this morning because I was kind of surprised to see this number. 232.5 passing for Drake. This is as high as 243.5. So this is one of the biggest jumps I've seen across books. So certainly shop around. Obviously a lot of motivation, as we know. A tough defense of the Ravens, but they're allowing the 5th most attempts, over 245 yards a game. Quarterbacks are averaging against them. And he's cashed this pretty much every week, all but 2 of the last 10 games. And I think we either get a negative game script. I do think it's going to be competitive, or a close game. I don't see them coming out. It would be lovely scoring 21 points, unanswered points in the first half, but I don't see that happening. So game script is going to work. And I know last week wasn't good, but that was only the 2nd game all season we saw him dip 60% or lower in completion percentage. He's still leading the league in completion percentage. He's still tied for first in yards per attempt. And for what it's worth, he is 3-0 straight up and ATS in primetime games. So he does show up under the bright lights. I think they're going to bounce back big. His defense really let him down last week. His numbers took a little bit of a dip. But in general, I just think this game script is going to be too tight, or too much of a negative game script for him not to cash this. Anything jumps out at you, Proppy or Dave, on why maybe this is at 232.5, or you feel like that's the right number?
I've got some thoughts on the matchup. I think Baltimore, the strength of their defense is in their secondary. And so there could be some tough, I don't want to say tough. We're talking about an MVP candidate in Drake May, but certainly some competitive situations on May's passes at the catch point. And that does make me just a little bit nervous. I also think the Patriots can lean into their ground game. I actually think both teams will lean into their ground game this week. And so there's going to be plenty of chances for Travion Henderson to build on what he did last week.
Sure.
And the Ravens for what they did. I don't know if this can be a high-scoring shootout. I haven't seen enough from Baltimore where they can be a really high-scoring team. And I haven't seen enough from the Patriots offense recently that makes me think that they can be at least a high-scoring team through the air. So it makes me a little bit nervous, but I get where you're coming from. And here's the one thing I don't know. if push comes to shove in this game, is this going to be Drake May taking matters into his own hands? And if that's the case, does he just start firing off all over the field, or does he run it a little bit more like he did last week when he scored the first 2 touchdowns of the game for New England on the ground?
Probably, I just don't know if they'll have the opportunity to run the ball that much. I do think the Ravens are going to be able to put up points. I mean, the total's at 49.5. It's one of the higher totals on the board. What are your thoughts?
This makes a lot of sense to me. I like this the more I've looked at it. I actually haven't broken down this game. I haven't gotten into the weeds on this game yet, just because I kind of do it in order of, and it being at Sunday Night Football, I just haven't gotten it there yet, because I like to spend a lot of time on each game naturally. But yeah, this makes a lot of sense. It's a low number for Drake May. The one thing I'm cautious of, as Dave mentioned, the strength of Baltimore's defense has been their coverage. Not necessarily a great pass rush, but they're very good in coverage. I also think you can throw away the season-long stats. If we zoom in since week 10, they have been phenomenal. This is arguably as good as any defense in the league since week 10, specifically their EPA allowed per dropback. So from a matchup standpoint, it is about as difficult as a matchup can be right now for a quarterback. So that is likely the driving force behind the low number. But Drake May, to his credit, has been as good as any quarterback in the NFL this season. We're getting a low number here. I love the fact that we have a 50-point total as well. So a lot of things working in his favor. It makes a lot of sense to me on paper. But that, in my opinion, is why the number is as low as it is.
And I have Bills fans agreeing with me, so thank you, Sean. Appreciate that. Somebody just mentioned snow in the forecast. I checked this morning. I didn't see snow, and the wind wasn't too bad. So I don't know if that came out recently.
Temps in the 30s, light winds, no precipitation. It'll be cold, but that's it.
Yeah, I didn't see too much snow. All right, cool. So we like Drake May. Let's move on to some rushing props. Dave, you have plenty, so I'll let you rip with. Let's start with Saquon Barkley over against Washington.
Yeah, the number's 75.5 rush yards at -114. I love this over for Saquon Barkley. I think that the Eagles lean into him just as they did toward the end of last season. And speaking of last season, he went up against this Washington defense 3 times. He massacred them each time, at least 27 PPR points in each meeting, at least 118 rushing yards in each game. This Commanders defense this year, their past 4 games anyway, excluding garbage time, we're talking about 4.6 yards per carry. We're talking about a 9.4 explosive rush rate. That's high. We're talking about 5 touchdowns. That doesn't really matter here, but certainly if you want to put something on Saquon Barkley scoring a rushing touchdown, I'm sure the odds will be fine. And that yards per carry is actually weighted down by Denver's inefficiency against Washington in week 13. Look, this is going to feel like a familiar game script for Philadelphia. This is where they hand off. They don't have Jalen Hurts throw a lot. I looked deep into Jalen Hurts passing this week, and I think Hurts will get his rushing touchdown. He'll probably throw for another one as well. Maybe have some moderate yardage on top of that. But I think this is really a game where on the ground, the Eagles take control, and you see Saquon Barkley get over 75.5 rush yards at -114.
I think we saw the blueprint for what Philadelphia wants to do in optimal settings for them, or what they perceive as optimal settings. And that was against the Raiders. Play suffocating defense, run the blank out of the football. And basically, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And this matchup, I don't think is that much different really for them against this Commanders team at this stage of the season. They probably profile very similar to what the Raiders are offering. So yeah, this does seem like a giant mismatch. And with the Eagles being able to impose their will from a physicality standpoint, really get things going. I know offensively, Kevin Patolo and company really want to run the football effectively. That has probably been the biggest takeaway from this season. When you look at the struggles of the offense, is that just their inability to be balanced, to run the football effectively, has been the biggest sort of point of contention or departure from their success last season, if I were to pinpoint one thing. So yeah, this is a matchup I feel like where the Eagles can do that successfully. I like this pick.
Dave, did you have something?
No, let's move on.
You looked like you're about to. Okay. All right, let's talk then. Proppy, you have Travis Etienne, who's coming off just a 32-yard game, average 2.7 yards a carry against the Jets. You're going to go under this week against
Yep,
Denver.
we're going under 62.5 rushing yards. I believe the number right now is teetering around 60.5. I'd make this number 55.5. This was a big oversight by the odds makers. Travis Etienne, who's having a decent season to his credit, but even since he stepped foot in the NFL, he's been a very boon or bust runner. What I mean by that, he gets his runs on big chunk plays. He's not a guy that churns out 3 to 4 to 5 yards at a time. He's a guy that'll hit you with multiple 20-plus yard match or runs. But that doesn't really work versus good defenses that are disciplined. And that's exactly what the Broncos provide. And then if we look at his production all season long, and this isn't a recent trend for Travis Etienne, you can kind of see like very stark contrast in him versus good matchups and bad matchups. In good matchups, he tends to take advantage of and go for potentially big days. But in the bad matchups, I'm talking about run defenses that rank in the top 10 in EPA allowed per rush. He's been completely ineffective and shut out. I think I looked, and there wasn't a single game where he's gone over 50 rushing yards when he's faced a run defense, a formidable run defense, a run defense that ranks top 10 in EPA allowed per rush. And that's exactly what he's seeing against this Denver team, who has a very good defense, a very good run defense. They're very sure tacklers as well, very disciplined. So this is just a brutal matchup in Denver as well against this Broncos run defense. I would be shocked if Travis Etienne has a big day here. I think this is a great spot to fade him.
All right, we've had a lot of overs, so here's one under. Shout out to our producer, Ben, by the way. Some folks are calling him out in the comments. He is the hardest working producer out there. So, Ben, we love you. Also, somebody else brought up a great point. We have over 100 people watching, but just 7 likes. Come on, guys. I know I don't really know how YouTube works, but I think you can like it. It's a quick like, right? If you like the way we're giving you.
Well, we do on fantasy football today. We just stopped giving fantasy advice. We stopped talking about football until the likes go up.
No.
Do we have to do that here? Or can you guys just take 5 seconds? Like the video
and you know what, Dave? I say it's all based off of this next one, okay? If you like Dave's breakdown of DeAndre Swift, you have to smash that like button, okay? He's going over on rush attempts, 12.5, and he has been balling for 3 straight weeks, Dave.
He's been over this mark in 5 of his past 6 games. The only time he was under was when he fumbled. That was against the Steelers, so he got punished. Otherwise, I think he would have been over in that game too. And Green Bay's run defense, Claudia, it's worse without Micah Parsons and Devontae Wyatt on that defensive line. Even missing safety Evan Williams would hurt the back end. And I think this is going to be a competitive game between the Bears and the Packers. We saw it earlier this year. Swift did go over this mark in that game. I think Swift will continue to see a solid workload, even though he shares pretty frequently with Kyle Monangai. But we're not talking about 18 plus carries. We're talking about 12.5 rush attempts or more, and it's even money on the odds. You got to love that. And here's the best part, and this is relatively new news. There's now wind in the forecast, and if it's going to be a blustery day at Soldier Field, that stadium right on Lake Michigan, then you can expect both teams to be impacted by that when it comes to throwing the football. It means they'll run the ball, and that's obviously something that will help DeAndre Swift. So this is an easy over for me, 12.5 rush attempts for Swift.
Number 1 run funnel in the NFL is the Green Bay Packers. Talked about this last week, why I liked RJ Harvey, where I talked about that number being closer to his floor than his season. He didn't even or ceiling.
This.
He didn't even have to be effective, and he wasn't on a yards per carry standpoint to go over. That's why I said last week that was my favorite play of the week. This is applicable here as well to DeAndre Swift. I think Chicago, who are very happy to run the football, that's been correlated with their success recently. This big run they've been on, they've been extremely balanced and they've been very effective running the football. Green Bay invites teams to run on them. So I like this look too.
Yeah, I think this is a great play on the Bears, too, to just lay 1.5 at home with all these injuries. The reason I bring this up is because of the game script. I think Swift will get a decent amount of carries because you possibly don't have Christian Watson. Josh Jacobs is banged up. Zach Tom is still questionable. Some guys on their defense banged up as well. So I certainly think game script could bode well to the Bears.
Just to be clear, you said Zach Tom, not Zach Tom is. You said Zach Tom is questionable. So
yes. Thank you.
Hey, how many likes do we have now, Claudia? How many likes are are we at now?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't even know how to see the likes. Somebody just mentioned that we had that many likes, so I'm trusting them. I don't know. How many likes do we have? Somebody tell me. Hopefully. For now, though,
We have a
let's talk about
producer,
Devon
right?
Achane.
He'll tell us. He'll let us know.
Yeah, somebody tell me. Sean, who was telling me? Steven? I don't know. Somebody let me know. All right, Devon Achane. Let's talk about him because I debated just going rush yards when we had our pick show earlier this week. I just said Devon Achane game. Wasn't sure which way I was going to go with it against the Bengals. Both teams eliminated from the playoffs. You have Tua under center replaced, not under center anymore. He's replaced by Quinn Ewers. And I think that means they're going to either be giving the ball to Devon Achane on the ground or using him early and often in those short yardage check down situations. So instead of just going rushing, I'm going to go rushing plus receiving at 112.5. Running backs are torching the Bengals on the ground, through the air. They're giving up almost 160 rush yards a game, the most, 31st in yards before contact, allowing over 5 yards a carry, the most. And then I was curious to see how they were doing with running backs out of the backfield of the passing game. They're giving up the third most receiving yards, over 45. So again, with the Quinn Ewers situation, on top of what he's been doing himself in Devon Achane, he put up 60 rush yards in a loss on Monday. So game script wasn't ideal there. Just 12 carries, still put up 60 rush yards. Put up 92 the week before that on just 7 carries. If you give him 20 plus, he'll give you 100 plus yards. He's cashed this easily with rush yards alone in 4 games already this season, averaging almost 6 yards a carry. He's already set a career high in rush yards, number 3 in rush yards above expected, behind only James Cook, who we talk about every week, and Jonathan Taylor, one of the best in the game. So I just think that this game script is really a good spot for Devon Achane, on top of how he's been playing personally, on top of having Quinn Ewers under center. Anybody disagree, agree? Shall we move on? Proppy, any thoughts?
I worry about Quinn Ewers under center here. While Tua has certainly struggled, especially considering what he's paid and the expectations of him, he still profiles as a good backup. I'm not sure that a 7th round draft pick I'm not sure that Quinn Ewers is that. Yeah. So that is my concern, is that even a soft matchup like the Bengals, that they're going to be forcing Quinn Ewers to beat him. And are they able to move the football effectively and sustain drives with just Devon Achane in that situation? I'm not sure. So I also don't have a lot of confidence in Mike McDaniel right now either. So it's twofold for me. So I just think this Miami team is not in a state where I'm comfortable backing even someone who's Devon Achane has been sensational. And if they're smart, they will make him the focal point of the game plan. But I just question. I'd feel more comfortable with Tua under center still.
I mean, I would too, and I understand the reasons why Miami won't put Tua under center, and I don't think it's because of poor play.
Agreed.
I don't want him to get hurt and his contract becomes guaranteed
when they're eliminated.
Well, I mean, I just think that they don't want to have Tua on their books any longer than they absolutely have to, and I think this is a business decision. Look, if Ewers was better than Tua, the people that would know it would be the Dolphins coaching staff, and Tua really hasn't been that good anyway. So I think we would have seen Ewers playing regardless beforehand. That being said, I scouted Ewers coming out of Texas, and let me tell you, he is going to be a very mediocre backup quarterback in the National Football League, but he's getting an opportunity now. And I felt like he was like in love with the idea of checking down to his running back at Texas. Threw a lot of screens, threw a lot of short passes. You can read my profile from CBS Sports back in March when I wrote it on Quinn Ewers. But he's the type of quarterback that you want to have if you've got a running back who's used in the passing game. I think Achane will see a lot of work there. This is a high number, and that makes me nervous. But Achane's been over this number a bunch of times this year. Cincinnati's defense really struggles when it comes to tackling people. That's a problem. And I could see Devon Achane breaking a couple of big plays along the way to getting in the neighborhood of 118, 120 total yards in the game.
Well, I will say I was looking at catches because I was thinking about Quinn Ewers in college using his running backs out of the backfield. 3.5 catches, but it's juiced to the over, -160. And then Propstarz came in my mind. Don't do it, Claudia. Don't do it. So I was like, all right, I'll do a combo then. Everybody's asking about Waller, who is questionable as of right now, but as we always talk about with a new quarterback or a banged up quarterback, the safety valve is either the running back out of the backfield or the tight end. So any thoughts on Waller, either of you? Bobby?
I think we
Only
both made the
27
same
and a half.
face,
It's
right?
fine. Yeah. The way they just
We both
reacted, I
go
feel like
like
neither
this,
of you
like
liked
kind
it.
of like,
I mean, Cincinnati has given up, I believe it's 15 or 14 touchdowns to opposing tight ends. So I certainly get the appeal to Darren Waller here. Being productive, the Bengals have been unbelievably generous to the tight end position. I just, this Dolphins team right now, I'm just having a hard time just having the confidence to back anyone. Achane would literally be the only guy that I'd be comfortable personally wagering on.
Yeah, and as Cliff just said, the hesitation from you both spoke volumes, and that's how I
yeah,
felt
no,
as well.
there's another Dolphins player that I would like to wager on myself, and we will get to him hopefully.
All right, we'll get to that. Let's stick to this game though, because I know on the other side you're looking at Chase Brown, Dave.
Going back to that Bengals offense that we talked about, this is my favorite prop of the week. It's Chase Brown over 12 and a half rush attempts. I found it at minus 108. You might find it at minus 120. I'd be willing to pay that type of juice to take this over at 12 and a half. He has 13 plus attempts in 3 of Cincinnati's past 4 wins and in 4 of his past 5 games overall. His playing time has been chopped a little bit with Samaje Perine coming back, but he's clearly their best runner. And this is a winnable game for Cincinnati, but it's also likely to be competitive. This is something that we've seen from the Bengals and the Dolphins, and we've talked about the Dolphins and where's their mind at. Their run defense isn't particularly good, and I don't know how they'll perform. I don't know how excited they'll be to perform in their first game since their playoff bubble burst. They've already changed quarterbacks. We've talked about Ewers. They let go of veteran Matthew Judon. He's been okay as one of their better tacklers until recently. Here's the number that really sold me on this over. A running back has had at least 13 rushing attempts against Miami 12 times in 14 games this year, including at least one in 6 straight games. I would not play this at 13 and a half. It has to be 12 and a half, but it's going to be an over for Chase Brown, 12 and a half rush attempts at minus 108.
All right, we got one more here. Keaton Mitchell, you say it's a half unit against New England, Dave.
And this is going back to the Ravens offense. And I just really dig what they're doing right now. They're trying not to overwork Derrick Henry. And honestly, Derrick Henry's efficiency hasn't been what it once was, but Keaton Mitchell's has been. He has 6 attempts and 66 rush yards each of his last 2 games. They're using him a little bit more. It's like a thunder and lightning approach. Spillane has already been ruled out for New England. A bunch of other defenders are questionable. And honestly, not having Spillane probably won't even change things for New England in their past 4 games, excluding garbage time. 4.8 yards per carry allowed. If that's the average that Keaton Mitchell has in this game, we're talking about 5 carries and he's over 21 and a half rushing yards right there. This is somebody who I don't really like playing fringe players, and this is no question a fringe player, but that's why it's a half unit bet. You could even knock it down to a quarter unit. You're not going to hurt my feelings, but it's somebody who I think could break 1 or 2 long runs against this Patriots run defense that really has started to fall off.
I would say to Dave's point here, the Patriots run defense since Milton Williams landed on injured reserve has gone from arguably the league's best run defense to now a bottom 10 run defense. It has been a drastic fall off for this New England rush defense without Milton Williams.
Correct. It's very unfortunate. Let's go to wide receiver, tight end props. I'll start with you, Proppy. Justin Jefferson, talk to me. Over 55 and a half receiving yards against the Giants.
Never thought we would hear Justin Jefferson as low as 55 and a half receiving yards.
Yeah,
and
crazy.
here we are, guys. Week 16 in the NFL with Justin Jefferson. And I've managed to avoid Justin Jefferson throughout this just dip in production, the worst stint or series of games that he's had in his short but absolutely brilliant, prolific career. And the reason being is because, and I've talked about this, JJ McCarthy has not looked like a viable starting quarterback in the NFL, but JJ McCarthy now 2 weeks in a row has shown some signs, some glimpses of life here. And I've been impressed with the way he's played. I've also been impressed with the way that they're utilizing Justin Jefferson. Last week, he had very good first read target rate, 31%. So definitely Kevin O'Connell here is supportive of getting Justin Jefferson back on track. And if there is ever a matchup, it's against these New York Giants. They have a putrid run defense, but they have an absolutely dismal pass defense as well. And they have been exceptionally generous to opposing quarterbacks. They also do not double cover, and they play man coverage at one of the highest rates in the NFL. Since Justin Jefferson has stepped foot in the NFL, he has over 3.0 yards per route run against man coverage. That is second or third to only Puka Nacua and A.J. Brown, who are around 3.2 and 3.3. So Justin Jefferson is a man coverage eater, just absolute phenomenal. He just performs phenomenally against man coverage here. Very encouraged. Again, the production wasn't there last week, but the fact that he was targeted as much as he was, and he was a first read on 31% of J.J. McCarthy's throws, indicates to me that he is a focal point of the game plan still. That is still an elite mark. And Justin Jefferson is just too good to keep. He's too good to not produce. So this is a great matchup for him. I know he's extremely motivated to have a good game here. I just think this is definitely worth the discount, definitely worth being a little bit speculative of. And I will be laddering this up over 100 yards as well.
Okay, we're getting a lot of ladder questions, which,
yes,
like I said earlier, Proppy is the ultimate buy low man. We're talking 22, 11, 4, 48 yards. It has not looked pretty. Mark has reacted accordingly, and Proppy says now is the time to go over Dave.
And shout out to Sia, who's not here today, but you remember what our ladder play was last week? I think you'll remember it because it was Ricky Pearsall. His number was very low and he ended up going very high. That ladder worked out exceptionally well. I could absolutely see this happening again. A little bonus point to put on top, a cherry, if you will. This offensive line for Minnesota, it won't have Christian Darrisaw, but it will have Brian O'Neill and center Ryan Kelly. Make sure that they're there, because if that offensive line is Swiss cheese, then I don't know if I want any part of anybody in this Vikings offense. But if J.J. McCarthy has good protection, I think it's all systems go, and I think we see the offense continue to thrive.
Very quick, because I want to make sure we get out here on time. Proppy, 4.5 catches. Somebody's asking. They said it's at plus money. I just looked. I don't think there is any plus money left. Would you go 4.5, or you feel better with the yards?
I like the catches as well. I think this is a spike week for Jefferson, but I'm more comfortable just with Justin Jefferson winning here. And I think winning, whether it comes on 2 receptions for 30-plus yards each, I'm just more comfortable backing the yardage because of the upside that yards offer versus a volume-based approach with receptions.
All right, and Uncle Dave's all over the Cincinnati-Miami game. Another play here, Jalen Waddle under this time on receiving yards.
I told you I had another Dolphins player I wanted to bet on, and it's the under on Jalen Waddle, 55.5 receiving yards. Wow, that's right there with what Justin Jefferson's number is it not? Found it at minus 115 from BetMGM. We've already talked about Quinn Ewers, how he's a dink and dunk quarterback. I am worried about the timing and rhythm between Ewers and Waddle not being anywhere close to where it was between Waddle and Tua. Think about all the time spent between Waddle and Tua, going back to college working together. And now here comes Quinn Ewers. I know that they've probably caught some balls in training camp and maybe in practice, certainly this week in practice, but I don't think the timing on those intermediate in-breaking routes that Jalen Waddle has done well on from Tua will be there. It makes me nervous to think that Waddle now suddenly is going to have a big game, even though it is against Cincinnati. I did a little bit of historical digging. Waddle's had 17 games in his career without Tua Tagovailoa. He's had 4 with more than 50 yards without Tua Tagovailoa on the field. That's pathetic, and I just can't help it. Even against Cincinnati, who, by the way, they've got a pretty good corner. DJ Turner, he's taken away a lot of good wide receivers this year. I think it's going to hurt Waddle, and I think that Waddle is a pretty safe bet to go under 55.5 receiving yards.
I absolutely love this look from you, Dave. I'm just going to spoil it now. This is my favorite look that Dave has on the board. I think this is a phenomenal one. Again, this is going to be on my betting sheet, and I will be making this an official pick as well.
The bromance has been strong between you two the last few weeks. I will say it's beautiful to see. We got
It's the
one
holiday
more
season,
here.
Claudia. You got to get close to your uncle, and I'm hoping that I get some good
100%.
Christmas gifts. And
Yeah.
Oh, you
cheesesteaks
already
keep
got
rolling.
your Christmas
Cheesesteak.
gift. It was a 4-pack of cheesesteaks from John's in Philadelphia, and you enjoyed the hell out of it and made me jealous. Now I have
we do.
cheesesteak envy.
I was going to say that was the showdown, though. So probably we do have to think about our showdown bet, which we'll get to at the very end, which we're about to be at, because I have one more play for you guys. It is George Kittle over 60.5. This is a Monday Night Football game, so I do think this is going to be bet up before kickoff. We're already seeing it as high as 63 in the hook. I mean, Philip Rivers is on the other side getting a second start for the Colts. I understand it was a shocker in that first game. They were able to keep it close. They still lost. So maybe this is a little bit more competitive than the line tells us with the Niners laying 6 on the road. If it is, great, because I'm on the over, and negative game script would help, or close game would help. Regardless, though, he's played just 9 games. He's still second on the team in catches and receiving touchdowns. He's had 24 targets over the last 3 games. And more importantly is the matchup. The Colts are bottom 10 in DVOA against the tight end position. They're letting tight ends average over 6 catches and 66 yards a game. The 5th most targets, the 5th most yards, the 6th most catches. I haven't seen an update on Ricky Pearsall, but he's banged up. Even if he does play, he's not 100%. That's extra volume there. And we have Brock Purdy under center, which is key. The splits are pretty significant. 2 more targets, 25 yards more when Brock Purdy is under center for George Kittle. Again, maybe this is a tighter game than we think, than the game script and the odds maker think, with the Niners laying 6. So I'm going over on George Kittle. It's a George Kittle day, 60 in the hook. Again, this is Monday night, so you have a little time to bet it, but I do think it'll be bet up. You're nodding your head, Proppy. Is that a yes? You agree?
I like this. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I obviously would prefer to wait so we have a little more lineup clarity, but yeah, makes a lot of sense to me.
All right, sweet. You guys asked for the recap screen, so we will give that to you. All of the plays that we like, and for our listeners who cannot see, we'll read through them. So Uncle Dave, why don't you go first?
Sure. Saquon Barkley over 75.5 rushing yards at -114. I am okay playing this all the way up to 78.5. I think Saquon is going to have a great game, and Philadelphia wants to continue to ride him. DeAndre Swift rushing attempts over 12.5. That's at even money. Would play this over 13.5 as long as the juice wasn't steep. I would say up to 13.5, not over 13.5. So excuse me for that. Keaton Mitchell's on here, over 21.5 rushing yards. This is a half unit play. Would play that up to 25.5. Chase Brown over 12.5 rush attempts, -108. Would not play this at 13.5. This has to be 12.5. And then Jalen Waddle under 55.5 receiving yards at -115. I would play this down to like under 51.5. I think that this is the type of game where Jalen Waddle just kind of throws his hands up and Dolphins offense is in shreds.
All right, I'm going to get very YouTubey here real quick. If you like Dave's picks, smash that like button, people. Before we get out of this show, smash that like button. Okay, Proppy, let's hear yours.
Let me just say that Jalen Waddle pick from Dave will be on my betting card, and I will make that an official pick as well. I love that. And also, I wanted to say shout out to my girl Claudia, because anytime that anyone has been critical of Claudia's picks, she's like either swept us or won a showdown. So I'm hoping that continues. But yeah, my picks are Tyler Shook over 212.5 passing yards. I'm comfortable playing this one up to 221.5 passing yards. Baker Mayfield over 227.5 passing yards. Comfortable playing this one up to 233.5 passing yards. Justin Herbert over 240.5 passing yards. I'd be comfortable playing this one up to 244.5 passing yards. Travis Etienne under 62.5 rushing yards. Comfortable playing this down to 59.5 rushing yards. Last but not least, Justin Jefferson over 55.5 receiving yards. I am comfortable laddering this one up over triple digits. I think this could be a vintage Justin Jefferson performance this week.
Like it.
All right. We're at 51 likes, by the way. So thank you guys. Keep hitting that button. We're almost out of here. Recap of my plays. And thank you. You're right, Proppy. You guys do keep going against me and I keep smashing them. I'll never forget the week Uncle Dave went against me in every single play and I swept. And that's only because I respect Dave a lot. So the fact that I did that, I'll never forget.
Yeah, I'm trying to forget that week.
I'll never forget it, and I'll never let you forget it. Devon A. Chan, I'm going to go over on the combo. To be honest, of my four, this is probably one of the lesser plays, but I still do think there's some decent value there. 112 rushing plus receiving. I think he gets to 113 combo because this Bengals defense just been absolutely awful against running backs. Jacoby Brissett, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Over 35.5 attempts. Drake May over on a number I think is just far too low for that game script, 232.5. And then George Kittle. It should be a big day for him against this Colts defense, over 60.5 receiving yards. We appreciate you guys so much for hanging out with us. This is week 16. I cannot believe we're almost at the end of the regular season. Thank you guys for commenting, asking all of your questions. We'll be doing this again, hopefully next week. To be honest, I don't really know with the holidays. We will let you guys know. We'll post it on Twitter. I'm sure the guys will let you know on the early edge shows throughout the week. This was great. I had a lot of fun with you guys. For Dave, for Proppy, for Ben back there, our producer, you're the best. And see ya somewhere, maybe still in the sky. We'll see him next week. As we always like to end the show with,
Let's
be big.